Spurs gave them space and he punished them.
It's been really significant, and I think it's a real big problem for Chelsea, and I think it's really holding them back.
Manchester City should go into this time with a lot of confidence.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Pint-Sized Pressers, HaytersTV's show bringing you the best of all the pre-Premier League action ahead of another jam-packed weekend, guys. It doesn't stop, does it?
Does not.
It does not. Well, it's been a brilliant season already. We're coming into the last 11 games. It really is the business end, and we'll be jumping into all of it. And as always, I'm joined by Dan Bennett and Nayan Murthy. We are in the wonderful venue that is Box Bar Piccadilly, the perfect place in the heart of London to come and watch all your sport. So do come down and watch whatever your heart desires.
Is it just me and Nayan doing a cheers this week?
Oh, I'm cheersing.
Can you cheers a coffee?
Don't out me for having a coffee. That's
you
allowed.
Can cheers a coffee, can you? Is that,
of
is that
course
allowed?
you can.
Is that against the rules?
Of course you can. Well, there's only one place to start this week, title race, and Arsenal, who are currently leading the table, they play Chelsea on Sunday. That is a massive, massive game for Mikel Arteta. Of course, they're ahead of City in the league. City have that game in hand, but I think I want to start by reflecting a little bit on that North London derby performance from last weekend, because it was a pretty emphatic win in the end. It was a bit touch and go at half-time, but ultimately, Arsenal were the better side. They took their chances and came out on top. Dan, what did you make about that performance?
Yeah, brilliant. I mean, I think, like we spoke about last week, there was obviously quite a lot of unknown because of Igor Tudor coming in, and we didn't know what that version of Tottenham was going to look like. We didn't know whether there was going to be a new manager bounce, but the way it played out was pretty much essentially what you would expect without all that other stuff. You know, it's like you look at the league table, you look at the performances. Arsenal should have thrashed Spurs, and they did, because they're a much better team. And I think the big positive, which we'll probably come on to more, is Eze obviously making it 5 goals in 2 games against Tottenham. He's only scored 6 Premier League goals this year. 5 of them have been against Tottenham, which is crazy. And Victor Gyökeres as well, who also scored twice. And I think it was widely said that it was probably his best performance in an Arsenal shirt. So 2 players who have come in for their fair share of criticism, I would say, this season, after joining in the summer, delivered against their big rivals. So that was a massive plus for them as well.
What is it about Eze and North London derbies? Should he be in contention for starting now going forward?
I think he was brilliant on the day, and again, the North London derby is best for him. That game's best for him because it's such an open game.
Because he's playing Tottenham.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Well, that's what I'm. The Spurs aren't as good as Arsenal, but the teams in and around Spurs, like West Ham, Nottingham Forest, would have sat back and been really deep, and Eze would have. I think he would have found it difficult to try and break down those low blocks. When Spurs, who looking at their defence, it was not a defence. There was a midfielder there, and Radek Dragusin's their 5th choice centre back. So they should have been playing a lot deeper, but they didn't. They played high. Igor Tudor said that he was telling his defence to push up as much as possible, and that gave Eze so much space. And you can't give a player like Eze space, which every other team in the league hasn't done, but which is why he struggled. But Spurs gave him space, and he punished them.
And you mentioned there Gyökeres, and that goal was insane. He played really well. How important is he going into this back end of the season? I think maybe he's taken a while to kind of reach his best, but him in top form is going to be crucial for this title push.
He's definitely hitting form at the right time. I think, is it 10 goals in the league he's got now? I think off the top of my head, I can't remember exactly, but around that. And yeah, I mean, he's always had the sort of potential there. You know, obviously we saw what he did at Sporting, and it's not really happened for him at Arsenal so far this season. I mean, he's very raw. You know, he's not. I remember speaking to. I think I mentioned this before, but I spoke to his former coach when he was a kid in Sweden in the summer after he signed for Arsenal, and he was saying even when he was younger, he was never the most technically gifted player out of the group. You know, there were a lot better technical players than him, but what he did have was, you know, relentless drive to improve and you know, the raw kind of physical strength and speed. So, you know, he's not the perfect player, but certainly in that game against Spurs, he showed a lot more of what we expected going into the season. I mean, the goal, you know, that he scored just after half time was superb, wasn't it? So, yeah, if he continues that, certainly be a big boost for Arsenal's title hopes.
I think also every player needs time, and that's kind of been not afforded to Eze and Gyökeres. Whereas, like at other clubs, if a player that they brought in hasn't hit the ground running, there's kind of an accepted period of time where they're getting used to the league. Obviously, Eze was played in the league before, but it's a massive jump from Crystal Palace to Arsenal. We spoke about that before, and Gyökeres has played in England before, but I don't think he played for Brighton in the Premier League.
No, I think he just only commentary wasn't in the Championship. So,
but I think that just that jump for both of them, that they're going to have to get used to that, and they're playing in a team of brilliant players. That means that if you have one bad game, you're going to get dropped. So there's no time to build consistency, and the fact that they're playing well now just shows that they are good footballers and they just needed time.
Well, our reporter James St Dennis heard from the Arsenal boss Mikel Arteta earlier today.
Well, I think one thing leads to another. You know, when you score the first one and the performances are good, you have more time with your teammates, you understand the games, the opponent, the league better, everything helps. We know his qualities, he's undoubtedly an incredible striker. We need to fit to his quality, we need to understand him better, he needs to understand the team, the league better, and I think we are in the right trajectory.
Of course, Arsenal leading the charge in that title race is still in their hands. But Dan, this is a bit of an interesting one, and it's something we've seen a little bit before in previous seasons, this kind of Arsenal-City dynamic, City have a game in hand, put the pressure on. Tell me a little bit about what we've seen before and how that might impact Arsenal.
yeah, I mean, I don't want to
Jinx it.
yeah, but Arsenal fans probably won't be very happy about this, but the way this season is playing out does bear similarities to the previous two title races. Obviously not last season because Liverpool were sort of ran away with it by the end, but the last two, when it's been Arsenal and Man City going for the title 2 seasons ago and 3 seasons ago, Manchester City had a game in hand towards the end of the season in both, which they do again now. Obviously Arsenal have played more games than anyone in the Premier League because that game got rearranged, the game against Wolves, because of the Carabao Cup final. City have got to play Crystal Palace at some point, but we don't know when because they couldn't play that week because Crystal Palace were in the Conference League. So yeah, City have kind of thrived in the past about, you know, being behind but having the game in hand until quite late. Obviously the classic one is that Tottenham game where all the Tottenham fans wanted Tottenham to lose because it would have stopped Arsenal winning the league.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's also looking quite bright for Arsenal from a Champions League perspective, I think it's fair to say, in terms of the draw that they've been dealt today. They've got Leverkusen. Now, when you look on paper at some of the teams still left in the competition, some of the teams that some of the other English clubs have got, we'll come on to talk about that, you've got to say that Arsenal have got to be strong favourites, even looking at the bracket now, to get to that final.
I think they definitely have to get to that semi-final. I don't think there's any excuses not to beat Leverkusen and then not to beat the winner of Sporting and Bodo Glimt. There were a lot of people are calling them the best team in the world. No, sorry,
you
and Tottenham's manager as well. But yeah, they are the best team in the world, and I'll say it again. But they're so good, and you cannot lose these games. They lost to Sporting in the Europa League in the 22-23 season, and it was around the same point that speaking about title race, their title race with Manchester City kind of derailed. Saliba got injured, and you just think that playing both competitions and winning in both competitions is difficult, but it makes if you win in the Champions League on a Wednesday, it definitely makes the spirits higher, and winning in the league on the Saturday much easier.
Definitely. Well, we heard from Chelsea manager Liam Rosenior earlier today.
Well, I worked with Victor. I worked with him with Brighton's under-23s. Saw him come through to the first team there. Victor adds a degree of physicality, of pace to stretch the game in behind. And I think he's starting to build his confidence, and he's shown he can score goals, which is what every striker wants to do. Eze, again, I've come across him many times. I remember watching him in the Championship then and thinking what an outstanding talent he is. They've got talented players throughout the pitch. They've got physicality throughout their team. And we know it's going to be a difficult game. What I would say is they also know it's going to be a very difficult game for them.
Well, something I want to touch on is Chelsea's disciplinary record. They have got the worst in the league, not for their first season. And it seems to be really affecting it. It's making players not available. What do you make of that, Dan?
Yes, it's been a recurring theme over the last 3 seasons, and I suppose when you look at it, it might be the kind of impact of having a very young squad. You know, maybe it's a bit simplistic to say, but you know, youth and not being quite as mature as the more senior players. Maybe that plays into it. But yeah, I mean they've had 6 red cards this season, and when they've had players sent off, it's they've drawn with Burnley, lost to Fulham, drew with Arsenal, lost to Brighton, and lost to Man United. Man United also had a red card in that game, to be fair, so maybe less so that one. But you look at those other games when they've had red cards and the points they've dropped, it's been really significant, and I think it's a real big problem for Chelsea, and I think it's really holding them back. When you look at it, I mean, last season, I looked at the ESPN sort of disciplinary charts. They do it on points, so red cards and yellow cards combined. They're the joint second worst, Chelsea, last season, and the season before they had the worst. So it's not just this season that it's been a problem. And like I said,
And you can't blame the manager either, because the manager keeps changing. Yeah.
I mean, how many managers have that time? 4, is it? So yeah, what it is, I don't know, but it's not really like dirty, bad fouls. It's not like horrendous tackles. It's more like petty things like
keeping concentration.
Yeah, and also like I remember like when Nicholas Jackson was there. I think it was either last season or the season before. He got most of his yellow cards were for what they call it. Well, when you talk back to the dissent. Yeah, when you talk back to the referee, just little, and even like you look at Fofana's one, it's just 2 silly tackles, isn't it? It's not like they're going out and doing knee-high tackles and getting red cards like Christian Romero.
It's more like a moment, maybe
exactly.
like some meditation classes are in order.
I think they need, maybe they'll look at that. I mean, they're quite a forward-thinking club, Chelsea, aren't they? So maybe they'll get the yoga teacher in and try and make them zen and
be a bit more zen. Yeah,
exactly. But it's a massive problem, and it's something they've got to fix, because you look at those points they've dropped without they'd be a lot higher up the league than they otherwise would be. So
we're going to go to predictions on this one. It's, of course, a rematch of that Carabao Cup semi-final, which was played over 2 legs. Arsenal came out on top there. Which way do we see this one going?
I think Arsenal are going to come out on top again. As much as this title race, and they've got a lot more to play for than Chelsea at the moment. I just think that they're going to have way too much for them.
I mean, earlier, obviously, they had that red card, didn't they? I think it was Caicedo that got sent off, wasn't it, in that earlier season games? I think Arsenal will win. Yeah, I think, I don't think Chelsea are at the level of Arsenal at the moment. I think they'll be full of confidence after that North London derby win. Yeah, I'm going to go Arsenal.
Any red cards?
Wouldn't bet against
very
it,
likely.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to make Arsenal fans very happy here, and I'm going to go for a hat-trick of
all
Arsenal wins.
We were talking about with them, with City having the potential advantage based on the history now.
Yeah, exactly.
Win, so.
Well, I feel like St Totteringham's Day could be tomorrow. Have you heard this?
No.
Yeah.
The day where Arsenal fans celebrate that they will definitely finish above Spurs in the league.
Okay.
And a win against Chelsea tomorrow would mean that St Totteringham's Day is tomorrow. So that's one for you, Arsenal fans.
Yeah, it just feels like Spurs fans are just getting kicked again while they're down. Eze, who they missed out on in the summer, scores 5 goals in 2 games against. And now we've got this St Totteringham's Day, which I was not familiar with. But it's just
there we go.
It's not an enjoyable time for Spurs.
It is not. Well, on to the other title race challengers. Man City, they go to Ellen Road on Saturday, tomorrow, 5:30 p.m. to play a Leeds side. Now, Leeds, it's not going to be an easy fixture for them, is it?
The cliche, the tough place to go.
Tough place to go.
It's definitely a tough place to go. I think they've got a really good record when they play there in the later kickoffs as well.
Yeah.
So I just feel like Ellen Road under the lights kind of creates that atmosphere. So it's definitely not going to be easy for Manchester City, but quite interesting. They're playing before Arsenal as well. Sort of touch on what we spoke about a few minutes ago, but Arsenal sort of, I think there's a bit of a reputation around them that they've sort of, when City play first, or they kind of struggle. But when you look at it for the large part, they haven't. They've still got the results, especially 2 seasons ago when City and Arsenal were in the title race against each other. But when Arsenal have faltered, it has largely been when they've played after Manchester City. So whether there's anything in that, I don't know. But it's quite interesting that Arsenal are going to be playing after City this week, and then I think they're playing after them in a couple of weeks as well. So obviously we don't know all the games and when they're going to take place for the rest of the season yet, but that's something to keep in mind as well. I think
it's like a penalty shootout. You always want to go first. You don't want to take that second kick.
I feel like playing first is definitely the advantage. I mean, managers and players will just say that we're not focused on anyone else but ourselves, but
it's not true.
We all know that
there's a lot of outside noise.
You see it, don't you?
Yeah,
I mean, they all know if Man City beat Leeds, they're all going to know that. They're not going to not know that. So I think that does even subconsciously play on your mentality a bit. So I feel like going first. I think Man City going first, but being behind in the league seems to have worked for them a lot when they've been in title races with Arsenal. So that said, it's on Arteta and his team to break that.
Yes, well, our reporter Stan Smith heard from Pep Guardiola earlier today.
Yeah, for our club, as much you play against the best teams in all history in this competition, you learn and improve, and you are better in the future.
Well, of course, Pep mentioned the draw there. We need to talk about the Champions League draw too, because Man City and Real Madrid, that could be a final. We've seen it quite a few times in recent years as well. But I feel like it's a fixture you can't really tire of.
No, 5 times out of the last 6, but I'm still looking forward to this year. They played a lot of games. I think last season was the round of 16, and the Real Madrid won that. But there have been so many good games where Manchester City have shown that they're better than Real Madrid, especially when they're in the treble-winning season in that semi-final. They blew them away in that second leg. But I think the Real Madrid have really struggled in the Champions League this season. Obviously, Benfica are time marred by other things, but the actual football, they won 3-1, but Benfica were in it for large periods of that game. Even at the Bernabeu, Benfica went ahead. So I think Manchester City should go into this time with a lot of confidence.
I was just going to say exactly that. I watched the Real Madrid-Benfica game, and Madrid were pretty poor, I would say. I mean, I know they obviously won the game and they did enough in the end, but Benfica had a lot of chances that they missed, and I think if City are watching that, they'll be feeling really confident that they can get at this Real Madrid team. Yeah. Obviously, they're missing like Bellingham and Mbappe at the moment, so if they're still missing those. Yeah,
they're a shell of the sort of Champions League winning teams that we got so used to seeing over those years.
They always do this, though.
Yeah, they do.
I remember when I think it was the year they beat Borussia Dortmund in the final. They weren't good that year, were they?
No.
But they just did enough in the end and they won, and you just can't write them off, can you? But saying that, I'd be surprised if City don't go through.
Yeah. Well, let's jump into predictions on this one. We've mentioned City playing before Arsenal. They're off to Leeds. Which way do you think this one's going to go down?
It's tough, but I think Man City will get a narrow victory. I think it'll be a close game. I think when it comes to this time of the season, City, when Guardiola is very experienced and he knows how to get victories, and I think they'll do it again. They'll get a narrow win.
I think that any slip up, the difference between Arsenal and City now is any slip up for City, I think, costs them the title. If they lose and Arsenal don't follow it up with a loss, I just think that City will really rue it, and massively, because Arsenal were already 5 points ahead. Obviously, I know they got the game in hand, but you want the points on the board, and I just think that City would struggle without a win. So I think they're going to win. Yeah, that was really. I went round the house.
I was wondering where you were going with that.
I was going round the house there. I think they're going to win.
That could have gone either way. I was waiting in anticipation to see what you were going to say at the end.
Another hat trick.
Yeah.
City win. Yeah.
It's a bit boring, isn't it?
It is, but
slip ups. But
I feel like at this point of the season, to summarise what Nayan said, City can't lose, right? So there we go.
Real, crunch time now.
It's crunch time.
Yeah.
Tomorrow at 3:00, Liverpool host West Ham United. Before we jump into this one, our reporter Nazira Youssef heard from Arne Slot earlier today.
This is Nazira Youssef from HaytersTV, and I've just heard from Arne Slot ahead of Liverpool's Premier League fixture versus West Ham tomorrow afternoon.
He set his own standards, and those are so high that the moment when he doesn't score for a few games, people are immediately surprised. So that is only something that's probably the biggest compliment he can get. Yeah, and then with data, you can use it in your advantage or your disadvantage. So not to use the FA Cup game if we play a Premier League side, you can argue if that is fair. But yeah, that's the way it works. If we want to highlight something really positive, we try to forget 1 or 2 games. If we want to highlight something really negative, we can try to forget 1 or 2 games as well. For me, I think it's quite recently, 3 games ago, that he had an assist and a goal against the Premier League side, Brighton. That's a very good Premier League team for so many years already. So that's a reality, and then you can change data and saying he did not score in 9 Premier League games. And that's the standard he set for himself. That's why people are surprised when things like that happen.
mentioning there about Salah and maybe his lack of form at the moment. What do you make of that, Nan?
They're massively defensive of Salah. He's not scored in 9 Premier League games, and you just don't expect that of a player of Salah's calibre. That's the player that Liverpool are desperately trying to get into the top 4 this season, and that's the player that you think would spearhead that kind of run, but he hasn't been doing it. I know he scored in the Cup and he got an assist in the Cup, and that was against Premier League opposition, Brighton, but he's not been good enough. And if Liverpool are going to get top 4, he's got to hit form, and if not, Slots had a lot of Liverpool fans asking him to start Rio and Ngamoa, and if Salah doesn't keep up the form, he's not exactly earning his place in the team. And Rio and Ngamoa has got a brilliant put in the cross for Liverpool's winner against Nottingham Forest, and I think that if Salah doesn't start scoring, doesn't start assisting, doesn't start putting his stamp on games, maybe you think about changing the team.
And Slot showed earlier in the season that he's got it in him to drop Salah
Maybe a
if
massive
needed.
call if he starts dropping Salah for how old's Lingard? 18, 17, 18, yeah.
It would be.
Yeah, but saying that, I'm sure we'll come on to the Forest game in a minute. He looked really good off the bench. And
Brilliant.
Yeah, he did far more than Salah did for the whole game. So,
Yeah.
on current level, you'd say Ngamoa deserves a bit more opportunity.
Yeah, well, exactly that. That Forest game, Dan, Liverpool were not up to scratch. One of their weakest performances of the season, maybe even under Slot's whole tenure. A last-minute winner, it was all over the shop, wasn't it?
It's a weird game. I mean, Liverpool were pretty poor they improved a bit in the second half, but in the first half it was, I've not seen every Liverpool game obviously, but it was probably the worst I've seen them play under Slot. And, they've had some bad results this season as well, and then they had that crazy end to the game where McAllister gets a goal disallowed and then he scores another one, and it was a very weird game. But, the first half was, like I said, must be one of the worst, if not the worst, they've played under Slot. I looked at the stats, 0.007 expected goals. If you're into expected goals, which I think
0.07.
Yeah, expected goals in the
Wow.
first half. Yeah, but they didn't create. They had two shots to Forest 12 and no shots on target. I think the big thing was obviously losing Florian Wirtz in the warm up. He had to pull out with a back injury, and he's not going to play against West Ham either this weekend. And we talked a lot about Wirtz this season and how he kind of struggled at the start and wasn't quite up to speed with the physicality of the Premier League. But I think he's one of their most important players now, especially in terms of his creativity. I think people have sort of spoken positively about him, but I think it has gone a little bit under the radar just how good he's been for Liverpool in the last couple of months. So missing him now, it's a real blow for them, when earlier in the season people were sort of questioning why they spent the money on him. But yeah, I think not having him is obviously affected them. I think losing him so late before the game as well was obviously hard, but saying that, I don't think they can play like that again against West Ham and expect to win.
Yeah, I think you spoke about the importance of Florian Wirtz, and obviously losing Alexander-Arnold and Salah being poor over the last season has really damaged their creativity. They don't have much creativity from the left with no Isak, and Cody Gakpo doesn't offer that much creativity. He gets on the end of things, but nothing in terms of creativity. So Florian Wirtz is literally their only beacon of creativity kind of going through the team, and without him they really struggled.
So some positive news for Liverpool fans. I think they will take a lot of joy from their Champions League draw. They've drawn Galatasaray, and again I sort of return to my point of when you look at that list of teams who are still in it, Liverpool have got to be fancying their chances in that tie.
Yeah, I think going to Turkey is not going to be easy though, and the atmosphere that Galatasaray creates. So you'd expect them to go through though, still, especially in the home game. Galatasaray beat Juventus, didn't they, in Turkey?
Yeah.
And then,
That was a dramatic 2 legs.
yeah, and then obviously they lost. In the second leg, they still managed to hold on and go through, but it definitely wasn't comfortable. So yeah, I don't think it's going to be completely straightforward, but yeah, you'd still expect them to go through, wouldn't you?
Okay, well, let's have your predictions for this one. Liverpool against West Ham at home. I'll kick this one
Go
off.
on, yeah,
I'm
you go
going for a
first this
Liverpool
time.
win.
Okay.
I know West Ham are, bringing it in their relegation battle, but at Anfield,
Well-
Liverpool need to put a better shift in than last
I'm
weekend.
going to jump in. I feel like we've been very boring with our predictions
Yeah.
so far, so
Oh,
I'm
go
going
on.
to go the other way. I'm going to go the West Ham win.
Okay.
Based on how poorly Liverpool played in their last game, even though they won, and the fact that Florian Wirtz isn't playing, and West Ham have been much improved recently, so I fancy West Ham.
I love it.
Yeah, I was going to say, you kind of blown me out the water there, but I was going to go with a draw. And you going with the win, so it has blown me out the water massively.
You thought you were really putting your neck on the line with a draw, did you?
The world with your draw prediction.
But yeah, I think Liverpool, West Ham are going to get a point, and it's going to be a very well-earned point. I think they're going to more than deserve it.
Well, Sunday 2 p.m. sees Fulham host also battling relegation team Spurs. Before we jump into that one, we heard from Igor Tudor at his press conference yesterday.
We've seen Spurs play with a back three quite frequently. With Danso back, Porro back, do you think that's going to be your structure that you like to do going forward, or you might experiment with the back five?
I don't know, because we're going to see when they back, how they back, what are the other players. So this is work in the work to recognize what this team can do. You know, because when you start to work, you start, but then it's a game who show you how is the really situation of the team, you know, in mean of physical condition, because it's fantastic to go to press up, and that's when I speak about style. That's also one part of the style, how you want to be without ball, but then if you have too much problems back, then you need to think about the style. Is the right style? Is the right way? You can call how you want. So I need to be smart to understand deeper the moment and the way how to take the points, even not looking to the style now in this moment. So style need to be in the second moment, this, because now it's a question of life and death, if I can say that in that way, sportively. Yeah, you can use that term. Yeah.
So Tudor went in quite hard there about what needs to improve in terms of a lot of training and other things. What do you make of that, Nan?
So I was at the derby on Sunday, and the way that Tudor was trying to play is push the centre-backs really high and press really high with 10 players. Vicario wasn't running up. But
he has done at times.
Yeah. But like press really high with 10 players. So he wanted Van der Ven and it was Paulinho on the right to push really high and kind of press the Arsenal defence. But he just said after that the team wasn't fit enough to do that, and it was every time that Van der Ven kind of went to press Timber, there'd be a massive hole behind him, and there'd be a massive hole in the midfield as well, which is where I was speaking about earlier with Eze. He just had so much space to do whatever he wanted, and it played right into Arsenal's hands. And I think that the whole way they're going to play is going to massively change against Fulham.
I say he's gone in very strong early, hasn't he?
Yeah.
I think, other fans of other clubs are sort of enjoying it as always. The pressure's got to him already, and he's already fed up at Tottenham. But it's not that at all. I don't think. He's gone in there with a job. He's not there to be nice to people and make friends. He's gone into a team in relegation trouble that he's got to save. So he's going in there and doing exactly what he thinks is right, and he's seen what needs to improve, and he's saying it. So I think he's fair, I think he's got to do that given the gravity of the situation.
Well, talking of the gravity of the situation, he mentioned it there that we've got to think like a team that's battling relegation. Well, that's because they are.
They are, yeah.
Dan, what do you think they're going to need to stay up? They've not been relegated, fun fact, since 1977. Maybe not such a fun fact for Spurs fans. But yeah, what they're going to need this season.
Well, we don't know for sure, but I mean, I was looking at the numbers this week. I think 3 wins in their last 11 games would take them to 38 points, right? Which seems completely doable. 3 wins in 11 games, but I mean, look at their current performance, maybe not. But on the face of it, you'd say that's very reasonable.
I'm going to jump in and just caveat that with they've got 2 wins in the Premier League since October.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. I mean, you think 3 wins, 11 Spurs, God, they can do that, But then when you actually look at it, you think can they? 38 points has been enough in the last 9 seasons to keep teams up. So no team's gone down with that total in the last 9 seasons. So 39 points would be enough to keep you up in 26 out of the 20 team season. So since I've had 20 teams in the Premier League, and 40 points is enough in 27 out of the 30. So you think if they get to 38, 39, they'll be okay. And they're on 29 at the moment, right? Yeah. So you think 9, 10 more points before the end of the season should be doable, but you look at the way they're playing and you look at their injury situation, you think it's not completely impossible that Spurs could go down. Really, it's just because of their, traditionally one of the big 6 and they're a big club. We kind of think that, it won't happen. But I mean, who thought Leicester would win the league, right? So
yeah,
there you go.
Exactly that. Well, talking of those 10 points, 9 or 10 points that they need to get, are they going to get one or three of those on Sunday against Fulham. Dan?
I think they'll get one.
Okay.
I think it'll be a draw. Yeah, they'll get one of the 9 or 10 they need at Fulham. That's my prediction.
They all count. They all count at this point.
Especially at the bottom. I think they're going to get all three. I just...
That's more out there than West Ham or Liverpool, isn't it? Sorry, I've actually had quite a few digs at Tottenham. I just realised. I mean, but I feel like it's kind of warranted, given where they are in the league.
Well, no. As I said, the 2 wins since October in the league. I just have a feeling that something's going to click. Thomas Frank didn't use Kolo Muani massively, but he scored in the North London derby. Arguably, he could have had 2. So I think that maybe he'll be able to use Kolo Muani, and Solanke is fitter now. Pedro Porro is back. Kevin Danso is back. So things may be looking a bit brighter for Spurs. A bit.
I'm going to go for 0 points for Spurs on this
Fulham
one.
win.
Yeah, Fulham win.
Yeah, they're a good side, Fulham.
Yeah, they're decent.
I think they're always kind of like in mid-table, aren't they? But they're a strong side.
Yeah, indeed. Well, also, we've then all gone different. We'll all get one right.
Exactly.
Before we move on, I want to ask you a little bit about, I mean, it's crazy to think, but Spurs have done pretty well in the Champions League this season.
We forget about that, but they actually
We
have.
do, yeah. They've got their draw and they have pulled out Atletico Madrid. What do we make of that? Dan, I'll ask you.
Yeah, that's going to be difficult,
It's a
isn't
tough
it?
one, isn't it?
Like another team, I think that maybe, like I said, PSG earlier, they're not quite what they were in years gone by where they were making Champions League finals, but they've still got some very good players, and the likes of Julian Alvarez, and it's just always tough against Simeone's team, isn't it? You know you're going to be in for a real battle, and it's not going to be a very good game. But I mean, they've been good in Europe, Tottenham.
Yeah.
But saying that, they've got to, as crazy as it sounds, they've got to prioritise the Premier League. I think one of the big issues as well that we spoke is they've not been able to balance having European football and league football. They've not been able to balance multiple competitions. It was the same last season, so it'd be nice for them to have a good run in Europe, but I think they've got to look at the Premier League first.
Again, you say that, but they don't have players to rotate.
Yeah.
So it's not like they can just change the team because there's no...
Kids
there's no,
out
like,
against Atletico, maybe.
It's like that is the only option.
Yeah.
Or you just play the first team and you've got to play them throughout. Well, it's not really a first team, is it? But I'd actually say that Spurs beat Villarreal earlier in the season at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium in Champions League. They're above Atletico Madrid in La Liga. So as much as Spurs have been really poor this season, Atletico Madrid are obviously a really good team. They've had some really good results this season, especially against Barcelona. But I think that it wouldn't be out of the question for Spurs to go through in this tie.
On to another Sunday at 2 p.m. fixture as Man United host Crystal Palace. Now, Man United were in a similar boat to Spurs last year, battling that bottom of the table situation. This season, it's all changed, really, isn't it? They find themselves in 4th, only 3 points behind Villa, and only 8 points behind Man City, which is crazy.
Would have been unthinkable a few months ago, even. It didn't look like it was going that way, but yeah, I mean, it wasn't a great performance in the win over Everton, but they got the all-important goal again, and it was a really worked goal. It was kind of classic Man United, really, when you look at it. The counter-attacking goal, long direct ball forward and going in behind, and it's what United fans want to see. So I think the big thing we got to always how good Benjamin Sesko has been in a substitutes role as well. He's not been starting games, but he came on again against Everton and got the winner. And he's had a bit of a tough season, I think, up until recently. He's not really settled. He's had a couple of injuries, but he looks a really good player.
Yeah.
I know he's young and he's still got a lot to improve, but there's a lot there, I think, that United fans should be excited about. And I guess the dilemma Carrick's got is, does he start him? Because it's hard to leave him on the bench when he's scoring so many goals. But at the same time, he's been starting Mbeumo up top, who's been really good as well and has done really well. And he's a real threat in behind with his pace. So it kind of changes the way they play. But it's difficult to leave Sesko on the bench, I think, when he's playing like he is.
I think that the way the Manchester United are playing is just, it's right players in the right position, and it's kind of grinding out results. Obviously, there are some other results at the start where he's kind of blowing away teams, but now they're just doing the right things, and I think that's what Ruben Amorim should have been doing months ago. But now that he's doing the right thing, and even though, like as you said, they're 8 points behind Man City, they're not that good, but they're not like Manchester City, and they're not. But they're very realistic top four. It's very realistic that they can finish in that fourth spot.
I think I think it'll be top 5 even, won't it? So I mean, I'd be very surprised if they don't finish in the top 5 and get Champions League football now. Which we're talking about all these teams in the Champions League. We're not talking about Man United, who Man United have got in the draw because they're not in it. So to be back there is very important for the club.
Yeah.
Fair play to Carrick for getting them back in. I mean, there's still a long way to go, but I think they'll get it.
Yeah. Well, there's that element of balancing football as well, isn't it? Because it was the first time they were out of all competitions that early for however many years. I don't know the stat, but it was a lot of years, and it has really helped them.
Yeah.
And yeah, sometimes these things are blessings in disguise, and it seems to have worked that way for this Man United team in this season, in this moment with this manager. But obviously, Champions League is the goal.
If Man United fans could go back and say, "Do you want to get knocked out of the Carabao Cup by Grimsby?" They would say no. But it's kind of, like you say, not being in all those being knocked out of the FA Cup and not being in Europe as well. They've had one game a week, and you can see it how we talk about Spurs and how much they've struggled with having multiple games.
Yeah.
Man United have had the complete opposite, and it's really helped them.
And the coherence of finding a team that's working, sticking with that team as well.
Yeah, it's naming the same team.
Naming the same team.
You probably wouldn't be able to do if they had multiple games.
Exactly.
So.
Exactly. Well, let's do predictions on this one. Man United against Palace. It's been a bit tricky time for Palace and Palace fans at the moment.
Yeah, it feels like you don't know what's going to happen from week to week. Sometimes it seems like Glasner's going. Sometimes it seems like he's going to stay for the rest of the year. I think now, I mean, it's gone to the point where whatever he says, it just seems like he's going to stay till the end of the season. Obviously, they had a good result in Europe, but I don't think they've been great in the league, and they're very stretched, particularly in defence. They've got a lot of injuries, so I think Man United will win. Might be audition for Glasner, maybe, for the United job.
I think United are going to grind out another one. I'm not sure that United are going to go for Glasner for the United job.
Yeah, I mean, a couple, when it was announced that Carrick was taking over, Glasner was probably like one of the favourites, but now it just seems like his name's kind of been pushed to the back because it's not gone that well at Palace. But I don't know. I mean, he's won the Europa League with Frankfurt. He's won the FA Cup with Crystal Palace and got them into Europe. I don't think he should be. I think he should be considered.
I think it's the way he plays, though, isn't it? It's not. It's again, and I was. I don't want to talk about this for a long time, but just the step up that we saw with Thomas Frank and we've seen with David Moyes to Manchester United. If we're going to do that, the step up is massive, and I don't know if Oliver Glasner can fill that role when there's other managers like Nagelsmann available. But yeah, I think Man United are going to win. It's at the end of that.
And I also think Man United are going to win. You sort of said grind it out. I think it's going to be a convincing win. Well, quick fire predictions for the remaining games. And I mean quick fire, Nayan. I'm looking at you.
You've been talking too long, man. It's all you. It's usually you.
Friday night, Wolves against Villa. Hit me.
Villa.
Yeah,
Villa.
No more needs to be said on
Saturday, Bournemouth hosting Sunderland.
Ooh.
I'm just going to jump in with Sunderland so I don't speak too much.
It's quite a tough one. Bournemouth.
Draw.
These are quick fire. Jeez.
Burnley against Brentford.
Brentford.
Yeah,
It's got to be Brentford, isn't it? Burnley are poor.
Burnley are poor. Draw.
Okay. You said Burnley are poor and then you went with the draw.
I did. I mean, Burnley are at home and Brentford. Oh, we'll see. Newcastle hosting Everton.
Ooh. Newcastle, I think, at home.
Everton.
Wow.
Oh, Newcastle. And Sunday, we've got Brighton against Forest.
Forest have to win, don't they? I'm just gonna do Forest out of just hope for them in general.
Yeah, Brighton haven't been great under Hertzler recently. Forest.
Oh wow! I'm gonna go for Brighton.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Forest only just got through in Europe, didn't they? They had a real nervy game against. Fenerbahce.
But they did almost hold Liverpool last weekend. So.
Yeah, they were good.
They were really
played
good.
well. Yeah, they played well in the first leg against Fenerbahce.
Yeah.
He seems to have given them a bit more freedom. So, Forest.
Well, I went Brighton,
Yeah,
despite saying that they were decent.
I'm not trying to say your predictions are
We're all
rubbish and
good.
justify mine.
Well, there's only one thing left for us to do, and that is pick our pint-sized partner for the week.
Oh well.
Yeah.
So you know what?
Any ideas?
Well, I'm a bit unsure how to pronounce his name, but Kjetil Knutsen, I believe. He's the Bodo Glimt manager.
Okay, yeah.
I've probably got that completely wrong. I think it's like Kjetil Knutsen, if that's how you pronounce it. But, I mean, obviously they got through in the Champions League by beating Inter Milan in both legs. it's just an amazing story, isn't it? How well they've done. I don't think they'd won a Champions League game until like 3 or 4 games ago, and then since then they've beaten like Manchester City, Atletico Madrid, Inter Milan. It's been an amazing run, and yeah, they're into the Champions League round of 16. I mean, going to San Siro and being Inter was, I think, obviously they won the first leg in Norway, which they've got some good results in Norway because they got the plastic pitch and the weather, and it's kind of to their advantage. And I think most people felt like Inter would come back into it at San Siro, but I mean, what he's done with that team, the manager, Knutsen, is just amazing.
Yeah.
I think even traditionally they weren't like a big club in Norway even, and now he's taken them to league titles and the pinnacle of of Europe in Champions League football, and he's got them into the knockout round. So be interesting to hear how he's done it. I think that would be very good.
I love that. Well, sticking on the Champions League theme, I will bring another Champions League legend into the mix in Vinicius Junior, and so much noise around that first tie. And I mean, there's one way to quiet the haters, and that is by scoring. And yeah, kudos to him. What a goal, what a finish. And we mentioned it earlier, it was a tough tie, that Benfica game, and that goal, his goal, just really wrapped it up and saw Madrid soar to a victory and a place in the next round.
Focus on him, wasn't there, going into that game? So to kind of shut it out and just focus on the football like he did was great.
And to do his same celebration, I love that.
It was kind of like, you're not going to stop me doing what I want to do.
Too right,
great.
Too right.
Well, mine's much less happy than both of yours, but it's still Champions League, so we'll hang on to that. There's Ben Sabani, who's the catalyst of Atalanta coming back in against his side, Dortmund, in the Champions League. They were 2-0 up going to Bergamo, and he thought, the tie's kind of over. They're just gonna kind of play boring and play it out. And he's the first goal, the cross has come in, and he's hipped it on straight to the Atalanta striker to put into an open goal. And then he's in the last minute where it's 3-3 on aggregate, 3-0 on the day, and he's kicked an Atalanta player in the face. Gotten sent off for his troubles, and they've lost the tie. And you just think, I just want to ask him, like, what's going through your head now?
I mean,
he needs to drown his sorrows. Yeah.
I thought that was your thinking. Take him for a pint to drown his sorrows would probably be the best way of saying it.
No, but I just wanted to ask him, like, what's going through your head? Like when that decision, like when the referee blows, and you know that like you might have just cost your side.
You're a brave man.
I was going to say, I wouldn't ask him that. Kick him when he's down.
He's quite a big guy, I think what was going through your head when you did it?
Yeah.
With a few beers involved, you might get might regret that.
Yeah.
Maybe. Well, we'll see. It'll be a good point, I know.
Yeah. Well, a nice Champions League roundtable there to round us off. As always, do let us know in the comments who your pint-sized partner is this week, and let us know your predictions. Thank you, as always, for joining us. Thanks, Dan. Thanks, Nayan. We'll be back for more Pint-Sized Pressers, same time next week.